A special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Lammers. We are just moments away from Governor Ned Lamont giving his 2025 State of the State address to mark the start of the new legislative session. The governor is expected to outline his priorities. And keep in mind, this year, lawmakers will have a few extra weeks in session, not just to pass more laws, but also to work out the budget for the next 2 years. So let's take you now live to the state capitol and Governor Lamont.
And Representative Rojas, Senator Duff, Senator Harding, Representative Candelora. We'd get your parents here a little more often if we did this on a warmer day. I'd like to give a shout out to my wife, Annie. Where's Annie? She gives me a reason to wake up every morning, as does my family, and as do all of you. I consider the people of Connecticut like an extended family. I want to give a special shout out also. I see two new friends I have here, Austin and Allison McCord. These guys are amazing entrepreneurs, and they also love to kayak. And they went kayaking by a beat-up old island off the Norwalk coast a year plus ago, and had an old power plant on it, and it was shut down to the public, and nobody was allowed to go there, and it was a terrible waste of 120 acres on the water. And Allison and Austin went by, took a look at it in their kayak, and said, this would be an amazing public park for the people of Connecticut. And they stood up, and they're making it happen. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Austin. I ought to say to the mayors out there, if you have waterfront property, you might just stick a couple of kayaks on the shore. You never know if they may come by and capture the imagination. Look, on a serious note, this is a very busy January. This is the opening day of our 2025 legislative session. Tomorrow, our nation says goodbye to President Jimmy Carter. And in 2 weeks, we say hello to President-elect Donald Trump 2.0. And this is a time of great hope. It's a time of some sadness. And it's a time of some uncertainty. Look, over the next month or two, we'll have more insights into how our changing relationship with the new administration will affect our budget and our people. But today, let's focus on what we can do here in Connecticut to build on the progress that we have made over the last 6 years. And always our North Stars will be affordability and opportunity, holding down the costs of energy and education, allowing you to keep more of what you earn, and providing you the tools you need to earn more, to buy a home, to start a business. Look, we've significantly increased the minimum wage over the last 6 years. And no, that was not a job killer. We have more private sector jobs today than ever before. And we made it easier to start a family here in Connecticut with one of the most robust family and medical leave programs in the country. And yes, it is solvent. We have one of the highest earned income tax credits, so more working families pay little to no income tax. And there's no tax on their pension, no tax on their Social Security income. And we implemented the biggest middle-class tax cut in our history. You keep more of what you earn, all the while keeping our budget in balance for the 6th straight year. We've broken the bad habits of the past when we habitually put more and more costs on the taxpayer's credit card for our children to pay down. And by paying down these legacy costs, we've made our state employee pensions much more secure, and we freed up hundreds of millions of dollars in our budget to expand access to affordable childcare, affordable health care, expanded education opportunities. And we're just getting started. Affordability and opportunity. These are our Connecticut values. Look, much of what we do in state government provides just enough to help you get by, but getting by is not enough. We're also here to help you get ahead. Not just getting by, getting ahead. We're upgrading our social service centers to be opportunity centers, where you can sign up for Medicaid and food assistance, and also free childcare and job training. State government should be more than a safety net. We protect the vulnerable while also providing ladders to success. Look, I want our state government to be the foundation which opens up the door to an amazing career through apprenticeships and free job training, and set you up to start your own business. Be your own boss. Look, over the last few years, we've had more new business startups than ever before. Maybe it's your neighbor who's got a solar installation company or a home-based child care center. It's right down the street from you. Maybe with support from our Connecticut Boost Fund. And by the way, entrepreneurship is not reserved for the private sector. Let's rethink our current services here in Connecticut, state government as well. To me, current services means status quo. And I've never been satisfied with the status quo, and you shouldn't be either. Okay, we have a longer legislative session this cycle, giving us an opportunity to get in the weeds, lift up the hood, not always arguing about more money, but better results. Not just more, but better. Delivering results that make a difference by reducing cost to you and expanding opportunity for all. All right, let's start with the high price of electricity in our state. That sparked a little discussion over the last 6 months. All right, so 2 years ago from the same dais, I asked the Energy and Technology Committee to work with us to evaluate how best to make electricity more affordable by expanding supply and by reducing demand. These high prices impact all of us. Working families, seniors on fixed incomes, small businesses, big manufacturers. Everyone was mad as hell looking at their bills following the hottest July in recorded history, and I can see why. Every business thinking about expanding here in Connecticut or moving here asks me, no, they're not asking me about incentives. I know they're asking me about the reliability and affordability of electricity, as everything we do gets more energy intensive. Advanced manufacturing and rapid evolution of artificial intelligence, they demand more electricity. And as our economy continues to grow much faster than in years past, so does demand for electricity. Look, you can feel free to debate whether you want to shift electricity costs from the ratepayers to the taxpayers, or you can move from 3 to 5 Pura commissioners, but these cosmetic changes aren't going to make a dime's worth of difference. We can make a difference, however, by increasing supply, especially low-carbon supply, starting with our investment in Revolution Wind, which is under construction right now, more commercial solar from Maine. You know, Maine, foggy Maine, what's that about? Well, they have hundreds of acres of space where we can put in commercial-grade solar farms at a competitive price. And don't forget hydro from Canada, our 51st state. Look, these are really our only options for new generation in the near term. But over the next 10 years, we're going to need more electricity to meet increased demand, which allows us to hold down costs. All right, nuclear power, that provides most of our carbon-free power. And right now, we're working with the federal government to find ways to expand nuclear capacity here in Connecticut. And before you rule out natural gas due primarily to methane emissions, that is where most of our power comes from and will for the foreseeable future, especially without more nuclear power. We bring in very inexpensive natural gas from Pennsylvania, but that pipeline is at capacity. And we bring in LNG by foreign ships, which is much more polluting and more expensive. You can ask Congress to rethink the Jones Act. Okay. Of course, the cheapest and most timely solution to bring down demand is energy efficiency. And that makes no extra demands upon the grid, and the zero pollution option is the electricity we don't use. I want to give a shout out to a Connecticut company called Butterfly. I don't know if they're here today, but Butterfly provides no upfront cost to our companies to reduce their electric bills. Through better insulation and heat pumps and solar arrays, no upfront cost. And right now we're working with DEEP and hopefully some of you in the Energy Committee to see how we can provide residential energy efficiency with no upfront cost to our homeowners. Bring down costs, no electricity usage. That will make a difference. All right, next up, speaking of affordability, healthcare costs. They're consuming more and more of your budget, and they're consuming more and more of our state budget. And just as we're beginning to bend the curve on fixed costs, such as pension contributions and debt payments, bending the curve, the cost of Medicaid and employee health care is spiking. And the Trump administration is rumored to be cutting back on health care subsidies for Medicaid and Obamacare, which will hurt working families and small businesses hard. Look, some of you know I ran a smallish business for many years that had no negotiating leverage when it came to buying health care. So helping our small businesses negotiate better pricing for their workers is a big priority for me. Access Health CT, they're working to extend individual benefits of being on the exchange to small businesses as well. And the controller is working with the private sector to encourage our workers to seek hospitalization where they get the best quality and the best value. Simultaneously, pharma costs have increased dramatically as a share of our health care spend. And costs of hospital services have also continued to rise. We have a kitchen cabinet that's working on healthcare affordability right now. That's Deirdre, that's Claudio, that's Andrea, that's Sean, that's John Driscoll. We have an open door at a big table. Come in, give us your constructive suggestions. We got to get this under control. We continue to encourage primary and preventive care, which keeps you healthier and hopefully keeps you out of the hospital. And we're also seeking better coordination with Medicaid for the wraparound services which lets you age at home as an alternative to the nursing home. The too easy solution is more subsidies, which only shift costs to the taxpayers, or heavy-handed price caps, which can result in unintended consequences. But here's one idea worth reconsidering. Last year, we proposed tying pharma price increases to the rate of inflation for generic drugs. That way, pharmaceutical companies will still be incentivized to develop the next generation of therapies, but these drugs will be much more affordable once they're off patent. And we must direct pharmacies to prescribe the lower-cost generics wherever possible. That reform can save you 50 cents on the dollar almost overnight. 50 cents on the dollar. So I asked the Human Services and Insurance Committees, let's get these cost savers over the finish line. Look, Connecticut also boasts the best schools in the nation, and unfortunately, also some of the highest costs per pupil, which can drive up property taxes and tuition. In our budget, first of all, we'll continue to increase funding per the bipartisan plan for ECS, number one. Number two, last fall, I met with the school superintendents, and I said, how are the kids doing? How are the kids doing? They said, let's build on LEAP. You know the LEAP program, it's outreach, knocking on doors of those kids who missed a lot of school, knocking on the door maybe with a teacher or a peer or a friend saying we miss you. That's gone a long way. That's bringing down our absentee rate dramatically. It's making a difference. We ought to build on the LEAP program. I don't know where Thea Montanez is, but she's working on our, there you are. She's working on our youth service corps. It sort of grew a little bit out of what we did during COVID. After-school programs, summer programs. So that seventh grader has an internship that they keeps them involved, make education real for them. Their older sibling maybe has a paint apprentice program with a neighborhood business or not-for-profit. That's a patriotic sense of giving back and lifting up your community. I hope to build on that and working with each and every one of you to do it. And I want to continue to make it easier and more affordable to be a teacher, including expanding our apprentice program where your third-year students get paid to help out in the classroom. Third year of Teachers College in the classroom as an apprentice. Let's make it less expensive to become a teacher. Let's get those young teacher aides in the classroom helping out where we need them so badly. Look, we have more counselors in our schools today, and I'm told, a little personal thing for me, that getting those smartphones out of the classroom has been incredible for learning and good for the soul. Good for the soul. Let's keep that progress going. Look, many schools are getting phones not just out of the classroom, but out of the school altogether. And we also continue to work with other states and social media companies to give parents more control over social media access. Protect our kids. Let's protect our kids. All right, I got a DEI initiative, which maybe folks on both sides of the aisle might appreciate. I want to do outreach to get more men into teaching. Look, what do you say, Doug? More men into teaching. Look, statistically, it's the boys who are the most likely to be disconnected youth. And a few more male mentors in the classroom and in the playing field as a coach just might help. What say you, Education Committee? And here's a simple idea. I said it before. Go out of your way to thank a teacher. Thank a teacher. These kids and their teachers are stepping up to STEM and STEAM learning, often in a dozen different languages. These bringing more and more trials and tribulations into the classroom. We keep asking our teachers to do more and more and more. Thank a teacher. Thank a teacher and ask how you can help out a little more at home as well. Thank that teacher. Thank that teacher. All right. Over to Higher Ed Committee. UConn is gaining students and increasing costs. Connecticut State is losing students and increasing costs. So I've been reaching out to university presidents across the country who receive significantly less funding per student than we do. They maintain excellence, and yet they hold the line on tuition increases. They point to expanding the size of the student body, more capacity in high-demand majors, including the sciences, and, where necessary, scaling back those low-demand majors. I want to give a shout-out right here to Marty Guay. He's chair of our Board of Regents, Marty. The Board of Regents are reimagining our community colleges, which have suffered from 30% fewer students over the last decade or so. Our debt-free community college makes access easier, but innovation is still long overdue. We must develop a balance between the traditional classroom experience, more dual enrollment, stackable credentials, and flexible online classes. And as federal support for workforce development is at risk right now, we're reimagining our Office of Workforce Strategy to support the mission of streamlining classroom to workplace pipeline, the classroom to workplace pipeline. And we need help from the labor unions. We need help from Advanced CT. I need you actively at the table to help us achieve that mission. Look, we have the greatest colleges in the world here in Connecticut, and students from around the state and around the country and around the world, they all want to come here to study in Connecticut. And I just want to remember that if you graduate from a Connecticut college and you take a job here in Connecticut, we will reimburse your company to help pay down your student debt. We'll reimburse to pay down your student debt. That gives you a reason to stay here in Connecticut, and it gives companies a good reason to hire right here in Connecticut. All right, I don't want to forego the other legislative committees, so here's a lightning round. Insurance Committee. Very few of the businesses and homes which were impacted or destroyed by flooding in August had any flood insurance. What say you? Judiciary Committee. How can we better protect our civil liberties, including reproductive rights, in the face of threats from Washington? How about the Labor Committee? The feds may try to weaken our right to organize. Don't let it happen in Connecticut. How about the Commerce Committee? Speed up the regulatory decision-making without lowering standards. And hurry up about it, will you? And General Law Committee, America is a fast-moving innovation leader with a patchwork of regulation. Europe is a regulatory leader with very slow innovation. Let's try to get that balance right. And Education Committee, let's build on the Blue Ribbon Child Care Commission. Let's make a down payment on affordable, accessible early childhood care for all of our families. Let's get that done. Let's get that done for our kids. Let's get that done for our parents. Give these kids the very best opportunity in life. And Transportation Committee. We're outperforming our peers when it comes to putting federal infrastructure dollars to work, and we're speeding up your commute. But we all know that our gas tax revenues are not keeping up. That's a tricky one. Go for it, Transportation Committee. How about Planning and Development and Housing Committee? We have doubled our commitment to housing, more new housing being built today than any time in a long time. But time is money. Speed up the permitting process. Get those shovels in the ground. Get those shovels in the ground. And look, our cities should be 50% bigger than they are today, just as they were a couple of generations ago. We got to get that done. And you know one way we start? By getting our workers back in the office. Let's get back in the office. The mayor of Hartford likes that. All right, appropriations and finance, we'll talk between now and the budget address when we may have a better idea of how the DOGE Commission will impact our budget. But regardless, unlike Washington, D.C., our numbers have to add up. Okay, we can always spend more money promoting tourism. That's another idea. But a little creative juice goes a long way. So I want to give a shout out to one Anthony, our Chief Marketing Officer. Bingo! His immodest road signs declaring Connecticut the pizza capital, the submarine capital, the basketball capital of the world, they attracted over 6 billion media impressions. Some of them were positive. But that's a lot of free publicity money can't buy. Okay, some people thought the signs were a little cheeky. Italy questioned our claim to be the pizza capital. The Boston Celtics wondered about the basketball capital. But as a great showman and Connecticut State Representative P.T. Barnum famously said, "I don't care what they say about me as long as they spell my name right." And they're talking about Connecticut. More visitors coming to Connecticut. And more like what they see, and they are staying. And nobody complained when our road sign declared Connecticut home to the winningest college basketball coach in American history, Gino Auriemma. All right, we got you up. Look. Gino came here as a boy from Italy, and he's helped more than a generation of young basketball players feel like winners. And he's helped our state be a winner. He represents the very best of Connecticut values. Wherever you're from, whatever language you speak, whatever race, color, or creed, you have a home here in Connecticut. You have a place in Team Connecticut. Affordability, opportunity, not just getting a by, but getting ahead. We'll make sure you have the ladders to success. And now it's up to you to climb. And we're here to help. So let's make it here. God bless the great state of Connecticut. Thank you, guys. It's going to be a great 5 months. I look forward to working with you. Let's get it done together.